Welcome to the first show of 50 Plus Woman Power Conversation. And this program is not just for the 50 plus woman, it's for people who want to get the wisdom, experience, and knowledge of the 50 plus woman and apply it in your life. And we're starting these power conversations talking about power and personal power. And our guest today is Mary Jane McQueen. She is a graphic designer. She is an independent businesswoman, and she's going to share what power means to her. I have 4 questions, and we're going to get to them right now. So, Mary Jane, how do you define power in general?
Well, thank you. I just want to say thank you for having me here and let me share this conversation with you. But yeah, power for me is just in general is leaning into my personal strengths and finding my mission and purpose. And once I've done that, surrounding myself with a community that'll support me and keep me grounded and honest.
Thank you. Now, what is your personal power?
My personal power, well, there's multi steps for it, but my personal power I feel is my creativity. And then as a secondary part to that, and it also helps me when I'm working with my clients, is my ability to listen with empathy. Because my underlying mission overall is just to spread true kindness through the world and to share it with others. And so I really want to extend that to others and to me.
How do you see women's power is different from men's power?
I'd say, well, not being too general, because of course I realize some characteristics translate either way, but in my experience, I find women have a power of listening and empathy. And I think our superpower is the fact that we talk, we communicate, we share our challenges, we talk through things, and we tend to surround ourselves with others that can really support us and lift us up. And I think by sharing our feelings and emotions, that's a great asset to us. That's a strength for us that would be beneficial also for men.
But finally, how can women's power help overcome the violence and in the world and environmental degradation?
I think I think by building each other up. I mean, by really listening with kindness, no matter what the situation is. I think by supporting and sharing our strengths and challenges with our divine sisters, so to speak, we and being authentic with our own stories, I think other people can really see themselves in us and we can see ourselves in them. And I really think that in itself is going to build a stronger community of women that's going to support us through these things, almost a safe haven or a refuge.
I love it because it's a totally different perspective of power. Part of the reason I got into this is from doing, actually, I was doing market research, a coaching program. And power, I started with personal power. And I don't know why I got the first impetus for pursuing power. But I think because women are usually seen as not having power. And then the older we get, we seem to have people make us think we have less power, when in actuality, women, as we age, we gain more self-power, self-knowledge, more power from what we've learned and experienced. And that power has historically been seen as a threat. And women have always, the older women would get, the more men would want to push them down by, from everything from witches to all kinds of other things that are going on in these days. And I believe that woman's power or feminine power comes from that point of, like you were saying, empathy, compassion, and caring. And for me, actually, it comes from, I think of the mother. I think of a mother, a good mother. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is that just because you are a woman and you have power doesn't mean you're exercising it from a female perspective. In fact, so far, too many women who have gotten into positions of power are just trying to be men. They're not
Yes.
coming from a point of compassion. They're coming from power. They're coming from putting people down and oppression. And there's a man who wrote a book called The Power Paradox, which I'm still reading. And what impressed me about it is he starts the book off, and it comes from a female perspective of what power is: giving, empathy, connecting with people. The paradox, he says, is that once people get the power, it goes to their heads and they become oppressive. But if we think of a good mother raises all of her children with love. She supports them. She doesn't become a dictator. She doesn't try and limit them. Now, this, and the good mother ideal is an ideal because women are human. And we all know that there are many mothers who don't and aren't able to live up to that ideal. But most mothers can, to a large degree, exercise their power and recognize their power comes from love and gentleness and support. And I think that this growing resurgence of women uh, coming up primarily online, expressing this type of power is having an energetic effect. It's
Mhm.
not making the headlines, but it's being felt. And there are women, like Marianne Williamson, who was running for president, and people like that. They're introducing things that have not been introduced in the usual concept of power. So before we leave, I'd like you to tell our audience a little bit more about your business and yourself.
Yes, so I have my own graphic design studio or my own creative studio because I have many facets to what I do to my business for my business. Graphic design is the main element of it, but I also love to paint, and I am in the process of establishing some creative play shops, which I'm really excited to launch sometime this year. So that's going to be fun to encourage creativity with well, anybody per se, but I feel my audience is going to be primarily feminine in its origins, but yeah, so I do all sorts of things. I'm primarily been working on of recent projects of brand and logo design and helping support people in their brand marketing, and some of that's entailed in social media marketing and content management. Um, and I've been doing some of that as well. That side of it's new to me. I'm well versed in marketing in the print side of things, but digital marketing is new. But it's a really exciting field, and I get to work with some really wonderful people, other small um, business entrepreneurs, people that like to have fun and kind of want to lock arms with me and kind of move to the next step forward for them for their business. That gives me such a great joy and almost like a motherly pride when I see them go out there and beat the overwhelm, because there's a lot of overwhelm happening with small business entrepreneurs not knowing the next step or the next step. So I feel like I can give them a little bit of calm in the process and sort of walk them step by step. And so when they're ready to go, it's like letting the little mother bird, letting the little birds fly off the nest and launch into their next step. So that gives me great satisfaction just to be able to support people in that way.
That's great. Now, how could people get in touch with you?
Well, you can find me on most social media things, especially for LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. But if you want to take a look at some of the things I've done, or you want to reach out for further for any more information, you can see me on my website, which is mjmcqueen.creativestudio.com.
Yes. And if you're on YouTube, you get to see it right up there. And I'll also include it in the notes. Thank you, Mary Jane. This has been a quick, short conversation, which is just an introduction to future power conversations that we're going to be having over the next few months. And if you are a 50 plus woman who wants to join the conversation, why don't you send Gogo at gogogrill.us an email or place a comment where you see this. We will be back with another interview with another powerful woman someday soon. Until then, remember to breathe, smile, and be great.